Guys, I am having like I think that this book might be cursed. I just read The Devil in White City. So I recorded a video talking about it, edited it, and realized I was out of focus. So I was like, oh, no big deal, I'll record it again. Recorded it again, and there was no sound. Okay? Recorded it a third time. This is my fault, I was out of focus again. So do with that what you will. But I did like the book. It's, if you don't know, it's about H.H. Holmes, pretty big, annoying serial killer in the 1890s, maybe before, but this is the time that they confirmed that he was active, and they think he probably killed like 200 people. I don't know why I keep making that noise, but I think they only confirmed like 7, which is still a lot. Like, that's still too many. So I had heard about him in a podcast, and I was interested because, unfortunately, like, true crime is interesting, even though it's also annoying and the people are bad, and the true crime genre has an annoying habit of, whether on purpose or not, kind of like celebrating, or I don't know, kind of making the killers look cool, like they're the main character. And one podcast that, the first one I'd heard about him on, actually, I had to stop listening to because as it went on, it just kept doing that to the point where it was getting a little gross. I'm not going to say which podcast because, like, who even cares? But yeah, I did not like that. And sorry, but you might notice that my movements right now are not matching this drawing video. It's because I am not re-recording the drawing video. It's too late. It has been drawn. So yeah, I did like this book because it didn't do that. It didn't make it seem like Holmes was a super cool mad genius who just was doing his thing and everyone he killed was a dumbass. Like, it didn't do that at all. It took a pretty clinical approach to his mindset and why he did the things he did. Like, it was kind of analyzing, like, what is it about Holmes? Like, what did he say about himself? What did people say about him that contributed to his inability to stop? And how much of that was because he was really smart, and how much of that was because people just didn't know people like him existed. Like, the term psychopath was fairly new. So whether or not, like, I don't think that that term makes, like, being a psychopath doesn't mean you're a killer or anything, but not even having someone like those things on your radar, like not even knowing that there's people who are totally capable of not experiencing empathy or not seeing other people as anything other than tools, like that just wasn't something people knew existed. So it's interesting when you think about how much just passive knowledge we have today. We kind of are always learning about people. Like, the term red flag is really trending. Like, we're always kind of, we know what to look for in people. We know kind of when to trust our gut most of the time, not always. So it's interesting how much of that is informed by just a general sharing of knowledge and access to knowledge that didn't exist in the 1890s. So, you know, he would defraud people, charm them, get them a drink, and next thing they know, they're like, oh, I never did get the money he owes me, or I never did figure out what happened to my daughter, but I don't know, he seemed like a nice guy, you know, it just wasn't setting alarms off. And apparently he was cute, he had blue eyes, they kept mentioning that was weird. So apparently that helped. I think another thing, just from the way the book was written, that seemed to help him was law enforcement was just, it seemed like a combination of like less accountability and more blatant prejudices even than exist today. So it's just like, well, you know, women just go missing, poor people just go missing. Like, what did you think would happen? Just figure it out, you know? So the police weren't really like trying all that hard. If you ask me, they were more reactive than proactive when it came to things going wrong. Another thing I really liked about this book that I didn't expect was how much it focused on the Chicago World Fair. So obviously I knew that that happened. I didn't know all of the drama that went into choosing the architects, choosing the location, even choosing the city. Like, I didn't know how much tension there was, how many different things were revealed for the first time, like PBR. I went to VCU. PBR was like the drink of Richmond, Virginia in 2010. It was funny to know that that was like a huge part of American history for a second. And the pettiness behind the Ferris wheel, like all of these cool things. And then the way that it played into how Holmes had so much access to people, because it just happened that the location was near where he was building his creepy little hotel. So it was all just really interesting to read, and a great balance between the two things. Like, it was very split between being about these architects and being about Holmes, to where it felt like pretty educational. Like, I was learning a bunch of stuff. I'm talking to my friends. I'm like, did you know this about the World Fair? Like, suddenly I'm just all about the World Fair. It was really good. It was a pretty long book. So it was an audiobook. I think it was like 15 hours. I sometimes speed up audiobooks, but this one, the reader was going at a pretty good pace, so I didn't have to like listen to it at 2 times speed like I have with other books. It was enjoyable. I'm trying to think, because this is like my 4th time making this video, so I'm like, is there anything I think I've said but haven't? I do think I mentioned in before, so the first time you're hearing it, the 4th time I'm saying it, that I was hesitant with this book, because as much as I was interested in this person and his part in history and like how his mind works, I also worried that the book might be like, ooh, Holmes is so cool, like blah blah blah. So I didn't want to buy it. That's why I found it at the library, and I was really glad that it wasn't like that. Like, I was really enjoying reading it. I was reading, listening, whatever. I had it on a lot. So even though it's one of the longer books that I've picked up, I got through it pretty quickly, and I would recommend it, even if you're not like very much a true crime person. I think just the history of it, it's kind of more through that lens than it is like a voyeuristic kind of lens. So I do think it was really interesting. I do think it's sort of fascinating to see what the world was like at that time, what the approach to crime was, and what the approach to big events was. So it was pretty cool. I would recommend it. And hopefully this video works.